Hey everybody, welcome back to The Loop. This week we're looking at the Old Testament book of Jeremiah. According to chapter 1, verse 5, Jeremiah has been created by God and called by God to be a spokesman to the nations. Now, you need to know that Jeremiah was not the only one who was speaking for God in those days, but he may have been one of the few who was really representing God the way they should in those days. In Jeremiah chapter 5, verses 30 and 31, we're told this: "An appalling thing and a horrible thing has happened in the land. The prophets prophesy falsely, and the priests rule at their direction. My people love to have it so, but what will you do when the end comes?" In Jeremiah's day, there were a lot of prophets and priests in the world who were telling God's people what they wanted to hear rather than what they needed to hear. These men of God didn't have the courage to say to the people what God had commanded them to really say. They wouldn't confront sin. They wouldn't talk about the difficult issues. They weren't willing to address the fact that the people were worshiping false gods. Instead, they probably talked about the kinds of things that made people feel good. Unfortunately, this is a problem that still exists in our world today. There are a lot of pastors who are caving on the hard issues rather than being true to what God has said. And I get it. It's hard to talk about those things, but we have to talk about those things. And if you look at the last line in verse 31, you'll see why. God asked the question, what will you do when the end comes? If you've spent your whole life listening to preachers who tell you there's nothing wrong with you, God loves you, God is always happy with you, what will you do when the end finally comes? What will you do when you have to stand in front of your Creator to give an account for your life? So let me ask you, what kind of pastor are you looking for, and what kind of pastors are you listening to? A pastor who makes it hard on you now, but easier on you in the end? Or a pastor who makes it easy on you now, but unbearable in the end? I love you, and that's why I'll always talk about the hard things with you.